Today we're going to be going over one of the best decks to use for the Let It Snow challenge out in Clash Royale. Now it is in the developer build today that we're going to be going over it because of course it's not actually out in the actual game, but when you're seeing this video it's going to be out. And essentially what it is the snowballs are going to be just absolutely spamming down on your side of the arena, which will actually help you out on defense. Now it says in the developer build that it's a casual challenge, but you never know. Sometimes in the actual game they are all of a sudden no longer casual challenges. I assume this is going to be a casual challenge, but if it's not, this deck will work for you either way. This is going to be the deck we're going to be rolling with today. This deck is absolutely fantastic because where the snowballs hit actually don't really cover where the graveyard's going to be taking their tower. So the graveyard's not going to get hit by the snowballs. Everything else is really going to be used for defense, a little bit of attack, but the graveyard freeze on offense is going to be the best thing you can do in order to take opponents' towers. Not to mention you have fantastic defense between the Giant Skeleton, Executioner, NATO, the Zappies, the Arrows, and the Goblins. A bunch of great answers to use on defense. You pretty much are going to have absolutely no problem. Game number one we have for you, as you see, the opponent has an Electro Giant, Golden Knight, Recycle deck. It's going to get a little chaotic up in here, but yeah, as you see, I mean, we have the freeze, we have the Zappies, we do have what it takes, and there are the snowballs going absolutely everywhere. And so we go in with the Giant Skeleton in the back first play. We have our Executioner ready to go next. So instead of defending this Golden Knight, we're actually going to ignore it and go in for an Executioner with this Giant Skeleton, knowing just, you know, let's let this Golden Knight go. If we can get the graveyard down with the Giant Skeleton and Executioner, we should be in pretty good shape. So as you see here, the Electro Giant comes down from the opponent. We don't do as much damage as I would have liked, to be honest. We didn't manage to get the freeze spell down, and unfortunately for us, the Golden Knight, of course, did a lot of damage on our right side tower. So we know now for future reference, you know what, let's go ahead and fix our cycle. We're going to need the Giant Skeleton to tank for the Golden Knight. We have the Zappies luckily in cycle with that Electro Giant, which is going to be awesome for us. And then the Graveyard Freeze, the opponent's really not going to have a lot of good answers for, knowing their deck, knowing that they're going to have just a lot of cycle cards and that Lightning. It's really not going to be the best of matchups for them, so we should be in good shape. And I have a feeling that a lot of you guys are going to be facing good matchups once again, because think about it, the only cards that you really have to worry about when you're using Graveyard Freeze is of course something like a Mother Witch, something like a Poison Spell that would of course just completely counter your graveyard for the most part, but even still you can sometimes get away with a win because this deck has such good defense. They probably won't be able to do a bunch of tower damage to you. But right there, another good example of just the Golden Knight getting absolutely shredded by the snowballs. Guys, they are so strong. We see the skeletons come down, and we're going to go ahead and graveyard and freeze with 0 elixir. As you see, the bomber comes down to defend the graveyard, but luckily for us, the snowballs, once again, don't hit the graveyard. So we're going to be able to take down the entire tower. Well, seeing the Electro Giant come in, here we are actually very low in elixir, and we do have to go in with the Zappies. But the Zappies are a great counter to the Electro Giant. However, they do get tornadoed in, unfortunately, so they're going to start, of course, zapping themselves. But the snowballs do hit the Electro Giant, so this dude is getting slowed down like crazy. We decide to go ahead and arrows him, take him out, and we still have 1100 HP hanging onto our tower. The snowballs are still constantly raining down. We see the Golden Knight come down. Are we going to be able to defend it? Yes, sir. We got the Goblins. We got a whole bunch of stuff. We see the first lightning of the battle there. It's going to do a lot of tower damage, but with only 40 seconds left, I know that we're kind of looking in good shape here. We're going to start making a move for the second tower, of course, just in case they do lightning down our right side tower. I actually didn't know they had the tornado. I had no idea, but we do see the Zappies come down. Those are a little bit of a sloppy Zappies, I'm not going to lie, but we are going to be able to freeze if we really needed to. We have a bunch of good answers here. The tornado, they almost used the Golden Knight ability there with the tornado to actually take our tower, but as you see, there's just not going to be enough time for a bunch more lightnings and stuff, so even though there's only 700 HP left, they are going to be able to take the whole tower. Electro Giant comes down, we can go ahead and just toss down a random freeze. We have the NATO, we have the Zappies. Absolutely clean win for game number one. Now match number two, you can see the opponent has a Royal Giant Fisherman deck. I believe he also had the Skeleton Army, Tombstone, and Giant Skeleton. So not Giant Skeleton, Skeleton King. So this is a pretty, once again, another fairly strong deck that we're seeing here, and we don't have any buildings against RG, which sometimes can definitely be a little bit sketchy. As you see here, we're gonna go in for our stuff. Now, luckily here, check out this Fisherman. It's going to actually pull in the Executioner, and then the Executioner is going to throw and actually tag up the tower from that range, which I thought was pretty funny. We see the Lumberjack, which is going to have the brand new Rage spell attached to it. We have the Zappies coming down as well. So the Rage spell is just raging everything up. We do decide to arrows because that was getting a little bit out of hand, and luckily we were able to defend it all, and we have a little bit of an elixir advantage here. So we're going to just be patient, save up a little bit of elixir, go with an Executioner in the back, see what else we're going to be be able to do, because obviously we have not done a ton of damage, neither have they, of course. And there it is, the first RG of the match. We decided to just goblins. I wanted to see what else they had in order to support this, and we see the log come down. I'm like, you know what, fair enough, that's gonna be some decent damage. Can we take their tower in the counter push? I knew they had just spent an RG and a log. I knew we had an elixir advantage here, so we have a pretty healthy giant skeleton moving up. We have an executioner behind it. I decide to toss down the graveyard. We see the lumberjack. I did not realize that they had the Skarmy, but we do see the archers, and even though they have the archers, the giant skeleton and graveyards on tower, we could have frozen, we could have arrows, but there's absolutely no need, seeing that the tower was so low. The bomb's gonna pretty much finish that right off, and as you see, we're up now a tower, and all we have to do is defend, which is where this deck is so good with. So where you can run into trouble with this deck is if you do not pay attention and you don't defend. If you get a tower behind, it's gonna be incredibly hard to win that match, because this deck is more so catered to the defense, because as you see here, even though we have no buildings, we are going to absolutely shut him down. 1 minute to go, he needs to take a tower. That is the only situation where he could potentially come back here. So as you see, we're just saving elixir, we're playing it smart. We see the Skeleton King moving in, we see the Royal Giant, we finally go ahead and freeze on defense. Really good freeze, just hitting all that. I knew that the Royal Giant was going to get no shots at that point. Pretty easy defense. Skeleton King, there's no reason to use that ability because the Executioner is just absolutely shredding. We kill the archers, we kill the fishermen. At this point, we're just spamming stuff down, assassinating everything, honestly. Snowballs are raining down, we go into the graveyard because why not? We were starting to really overwhelm the opponent. Applying this pressure allowed him to not have enough elixir or time to even be able to go in once again. So we're just spamming cards down. I didn't even need to take the tower, but we're going to go ahead and just toss down some zappies, toss down a freeze. We are cycling back tornadoes. So there's just absolutely no time in order for them to get anything going here. And as you see, the freeze spell comes down. That's going to be game, guys. Match number 2, it's an easy win once again. All of the graveyard freeze doing pretty much the whole tower damage. In the final match of the day, Hog, Poison, Valkyrie. Dude, the poison spell is going to be rough, right, against the graveyard, but no, we see the prediction poison on anything we can place here. We miss the NATO. What a sloppy start. Be sure to hit your nados if you see a Hog Rider coming in. That was a bit of a throw right there. There was so much happening. I just misplaced it. And as you saw, that costs us a bunch of tower damage. It's going to be a little rough to come back from this one. We see the Valkyrie, the Dark Prince, the Skeleton Army. So many good answers to our deck in this deck. How are we going to pull it off? We'll check it out. We wait for basically the graveyard to be used on attack or defense, not on our graveyard. And then we got to use our graveyard freeze when the poison isn't in cycle. That's one of the biggest things. We also have to know that the Skeleton Army gonna be a great answer to our graveyard. Unfortunately here, we kind of go in when we didn't have enough elixir. We decide to hang on to our arrows, seeing that our graveyard's just getting destroyed. We did a little bit of damage. It honestly wasn't enough. We did very little damage. And the Hog Rider, we'd need the tornado for, which luckily we are able to have the goblins for the miner, because I mean this could have been a really rough one if we didn't have those goblins. We see another poison spell come down. This was good for us here because we were able to save up a lot more elixir now than the opponent, and now the poison is not in cycle with our graveyard. That's huge for us, especially when we're going to be going on the attack next. Knowing that they have Hog Rider here, I was really hoping they were just going to be able to go in with it, so we could get that King Tower activation. That'd be super helpful against the mine or against the Hog, but unfortunately they decide not to. We see the Dark Prince at the bridge. We're going to go ahead and just tornado this. This was super risky. The snowballs actually save us here, because otherwise I think the Dark Prince would have actually splashed onto our tower. Pretty bad tornado there, and now we don't have the tornado for the Hog Rider, so definitely a misplay for sure. We go in with the arrows here just to kill the firecracker, and I see the Valkyrie and I immediately know this is going to be pretty rough what's about to happen here, because the Hog Rider comes down right behind the Valkyrie. We have to just tank some damage here, and then try and get him in the counter push. So the poison, once again, a really valuable poison comes down. Luckily the Hog Rider somehow only gets one hit. We're going to go in with the poison. I know that they have the Skeleton Army. Right here, we're hovering our freeze spell, and instead of freezing the Skarmy, we actually decide to arrows and then freeze. That was super wasteful. A big misplay there. We do hit a pretty nice freeze spell here, though, on the Firecracker and tower, and even though there's only 4 skeletons on the tower, they end up taking the entire tower there, and that is how powerful the freeze graveyard can be. It only takes a couple skeletons, guys, and you can get an entire tower down just like that. So now we're in panic mode. We're tossing down spells left and right. We rappel this Hog Rider back just to buy us some time so these zappies can retarget onto it. As you see, the arrows come come down. The Hog Rider gets killed barely with the snowballs, and there's only 900 HP on our tower, but luckily, I don't know how, honestly, the Hog did so little damage this game. I think the snowballs really slowed it down, and they were clutch. So the Graveyard on defense, the freeze spell, the NATO, it's going to be enough to stall, so we're able to get away with a win. And once again, that was a fairly close match, but keep in mind, like, that was a really bad matchup. It definitely could have gone either way, and so this deck should absolutely crush for you guys in the challenge. We're going to leave a link to it in the description down below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more videos coming soon. But thank you so much for watching, everybody. Best of luck in the challenge. Master Diddy-san out.